Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here. And apparently we, quote unquote, run it now. And when I mean we, it's not really you or I, but the United States and the military industrial complex. When I woke up yesterday and I saw pictures of Maduro captured in what looked like something out of like a Gitmo outfit, right? It wasn't the orange outfit, but they had the big sunglasses on. They had the sensory deprivation. I was a bit taken aback. I thought to myself, all right, well, number one, I'm going to wait and see what everybody says about this. And by I mean everybody, I kind of mean the administration, what the logistics were and are, and what is happening next outwardly. Okay, and that's not to defend anybody. I think that this move is crazy. I think it's atrocious. And I just want to ask people who may be in favor of this, right? I see people making the argument, for instance, that this was in and out. Allegedly, not only was there no U.S. loss of life, but we didn't even lose any equipment. From my understanding, there were people on the inside via our intelligence networks that essentially betrayed Maduro. And you had a coup d'etat that allowed the U.S. to get in and out in the dead of night. And they're going to try this guy apparently in New York, which is an odd choice to me. But at the same time, if we're talking narco trafficking, it's the same choice as El Chapo, right? So, for those making that argument that, this isn't a forever war, the strikes before on these boats were minimal, I've got two questions for you, okay? And I think these are the really valid questions. And by the way, we're gonna do a watch along with Donnie T's press conference. We're just gonna watch Trump and then the questions from the press. First question. At least verbally, there are two things that they were when I say they, the administration, Trump himself, was very outward about, stating what these strikes were about and why we were suddenly opposing Maduro in this posture. Because it's not like Maduro or Venezuela in general, Chavez before that, have ever been looked at via a positive light by the U.S. establishment, especially on the propaganda trail. They talked about fentanyl. And all of a sudden, Maduro and Venezuela were trafficking fentanyl. All right, my question to you is, do you think that this makes any sort of dent on the fentanyl that comes in the United States, the accidental overdoses and deaths via fentanyl? Do you? Is that an honest assessment? I mean, the way they talked about it, the whole problem should be over by now. Like 90% of it should be wiped out. Now, I would be shocked, and hey, you can always doctor the numbers, but if we even saw a 10% reduction in fentanyl deaths or trafficking in the United States, and quite frankly, that 10% may be due to other factors that are outside of Venezuela, if that. But again, do you believe that the fentanyl crisis has now been solved because they got Nicolas Maduro? That's one. My second question to you would be this. Trump has been very out. And when I say natural resources, it's more than oil. There's some minerals there, but the oil thing, I mean, in your face, unapologetic about it, talking about the oil again and again and again and again. And, he's making the claim that United States built the infrastructure and then Venezuela cut them out. I haven't looked into that extremely, but from what I understand, those were U.S. business deals. It wasn't the government that may have went crooked or sour. We're talking about the oil game. We're talking about real cartels. Okay? They always want to put the cartels with the drug running, right? But those cartels seem to be the government too. When you really peel back the layers, another opposition of mine. But okay, he's talking about ramping up the production in oil in Venezuela. Looks like they're putting the opposition leader in, but for now we're running it. But alongside, it looks like this is going to be a very, very U.S. sympathetic regime that's coming in. Do you think that your gas prices are going to be cut in half? Now, look, traditionally, gas prices, oil does fluctuate. I remember during peak war of terror, 2004, 5, tasting $4 or $5 gas then in upstate New York. California is over the top on what they're paying. We've seen a slight drop in gas prices, but nothing crazy. Do you think that your gas prices, because of this, are within the next month or two? Because they're going to drill, baby, drill, I'm sure. Do you think your gas prices or your natural energy prices, if you've got oil and gas at home, do you think they're going to be cut in half? Well, I can guarantee you, when we're talking about your heating oil at home, that ain't happening, Jack. But even if we got down to where we should be, $1.50, $2 gas, I don't know that that's enough to justify it, but I'm very skeptical that we're even going to get there. So that's my little opening rant. Again, we're going to watch the press conference with Trump, in his own words, saying that we now run Venezuela. And apparently they're also charging Maduro's wife. It's not unprecedented, right? If you remember Imelda Marcos, probably a lot of people don't. I only remember that like on the tail end of being a youngster in the 80s. But it certainly has happened in the past. I mean, when you're talking about mob justice, look what happened to Mussolini and his lady. That's about as gruesome as street justice as you get. But I'm not so hyped on this idea either. And quite frankly, the fact that we're going to charge this guy and probably put him in jail for the rest of his life, I'm not saying he's a good guy. But when you look at like Assad, right? At least he's got like a Russian exile. And again, Trump says that he wanted to make a deal badly at the end, but he didn't make a deal with him. This is the art of the deal guy. Just really, really troubling in my opinion. So let's thumbs it up, subscribe, share, ring that bell. Check out all the documentary films for free. By the way, a couple days, we're going to be having David Icke on via The Roadmap. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a great live discussion. You're going to want to tune in. And as always, guys, I need your support. $5, $10, $15. It absolutely means the world to me. Big donors, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know the holiday season is over. Let's make it a strong 2026. I'm trying to continue to do this at a extensive clip, give you true independent insights. Let you decide for yourself what you believe. That's why we're going to play this press conference. I'm not going to insinuate what Trump says, right? It's just like when I asked you those questions. I think there's more to the story than just the fentanyl, especially, but even the oil. Okay, I think it goes far beyond that. But even if you take him at his word for that, will he deliver? I mean, does this benefit us, the citizens? So, again, if you like my work, there's also the PayPal down below. The Venmo Cash App is Jason Bermas, one word. We want to thank Marigold Resources. They broker the sales and purchases of businesses. If you're in that game, go check them out at marigoldresources.com. And then True Independent Media here in the Quad Cities, the River Cities Reader, rcreader.com. Give them a look. And give me a follow on X. We kicked and screamed back up to what? I mean, in real growth numbers, it's probably been 4 to 5 months since we've gained any followers on there. But if you're looking for raw data and stuff that, Thomas Massey, things that maybe we don't always cover here, it's a good place to go. Plus, we also do post the videos. By the way, if you've never seen my transhumanism lecture and you are new, that's a reason just to go over to x.com/Jason Bermas in its own. So Maduro, okay, to appear in Manhattan federal court on Monday for arraignment on alleged drug charges. So it seems they're charging him here. I guess you could say they had success with El Chapo. Obviously, the guy doesn't have a chance in hell to be able to actually defend himself, no matter what the story is. I'm not telling you he's not a drug runner, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, again, is the fentanyl crisis over? Is the drug problem ever really going to be solved in the United States when there's such a demand for it? Probably not. Probably not. So, with that being said, let's throw it to Donnie T.
We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
Odd thing to say. Sorry, it's just really weird to say that. Think about that. Because post-World War II, we've got plenty of conflicts and plenty of different kind of warfare. I mean, you can start with the Korean War, obviously Vietnam. I mean, right now, we've got drone strikes going AFRICOM style, not just Nigeria, all over the place there. Yemen. I mean, we go on and on and on. Not since World War. Just an odd thing to say, Don. That's all I'm going to say.
It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done.
So let me just stop right there. Not endorsing anything he just said there. The one that really does stick out to me that was the most upsetting was the killing of Soleimani. Right? Because you had this military leader that was our ally. Again, we cross our allies constantly in Iraq. Okay? And when you saw how many people came out in Iran for, his funeral ceremony, it was incredible. It's lucky we didn't spark a war right there. Let me go over to my super chattage here. Let's get over there. Allegedly, indictment is for cocaine only. Fentanyl is not mentioned, according to Massey. And that's why we love us some Massey. Massey is the real deal. He's pointing out this hypocrisy. So again, man, I'm a non-interventionist. Okay, why are we giving other nations an excuse to not only hate us but want to, cause us harm both financially and militarily? Let's go back to Trump.
No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off. due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, maybe like never before.
You know, to that point, once again, I don't want wars to be dragged out. But I feel, especially when you talk about the war of terror, all right, that was purposely dragged out. They toppled Afghanistan like that. But then the boogeyman was still out there, bin Laden. Okay? And then they toppled Iraq like that. They found Saddam shortly after. Okay? But the boogeyman, bin Laden, was still out there. And it wasn't until, the Obama administration and that transition from al-Qaeda into ISIS, that they did the raid and they got him. So, this idea that, we are like if you look at the exit of Afghanistan, obviously that could have been done better purposely. They did it in another way on purpose to cause chaos, right? To seem incompetent. To me, the days of things like Bay of Pigs are over with and have been for a very long time. That doesn't mean we're perfect. But if we want to get something done for the last 30 plus years, it happens. It happens. And again, bringing up Jimmy Carter, especially when you look at the crooked Bush administration, first one, via Reagan, via the CIA, that reeks. And again, when you look at the drugs there in that network, it's us. It's us.
These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position, but they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%.
So again, these are big claims. And again, I haven't looked at the indictment, so I don't know if tomorrow's when they're going to charge the guy. But if they didn't charge him with fentanyl and it was just cocaine, again, the U.S. record with cocaine is no bueno. And this war on drugs hasn't seemed to work my entire life.
And those drugs mostly come from place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
So let me just stop it there. Again, very troublesome. I mean, even what he's saying is very outward. Like, he's not even using, like, the democracy rhetoric that you would see from the Democrats or, like, the neocons. You know, we're liberating it for democracy. I mean, I'll say this. He's being more honest. He's like, you know, we're going to run the country, and we're going to put someone friendly to us in. We're going to install them, and we're going to stick around until we see fit. So that's not, we're letting Venezuela rule itself. I mean, he's pretty outward right there. You got to give him credit for at least that.
And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as, we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
I mean, Trump constantly repeats himself, right? And he's very good at saying the same thing over and over and over and aggrandizing it. But I really want people to just go back and listen to everything he just said. Nowhere in there is he talking about a democratic republic, the will of the people. He's talking about liberty and justice for the people, but we're running it. We're running it. Now, again, let's ask ourselves another question. All right, are we naive enough to believe that the average Venezuelan, whether they love or hate Maduro, wants the United States outwardly running their country? Does that matter to anybody that's watching this?
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do.
So again, let's break down what he just said. Immediately after saying we run it, again, you got to give him credit. He's very outward about the oil and how we're running that as well. But then right after, very Donnie T gangster style right there, he talks about a second. We've already ousted the leader of the country and his wife. They're already in New York about to face charges. And you're talking about we don't want to do a second wave. But if we were going to do a second wave, it'd be it'd be even more deadly than the other one. I mean, something out of a Corleone film, folks. I'm sorry.
This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him.
So let me just stop for a second. When he talks about Maduro being a dictator. Well, if we're running the country and we're installing the next leader, is that not dictatorial? Is that not authoritarian? Are we not just installing another dictator, but this time a dictator that is friendly to the United States and our business interests?
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C.
Let me stop you. It's not no crime. But, again, when I did that year in review, I do got to give him credit for that. Once again, if the police aren't going to do their job and you're not going to have the military on the street for a very long time, he really did clean that up. That really, again, Chappelle had to make a joke about it in his latest special, and I thought he was spot on that.
We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, in We're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster.
And look, from someone who lives here on the border of Illinois, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Now, for anyone that's been to Chicago, as far as cities go, the nice areas are extremely nice. It's nowhere near the labyrinth or Leviathan of New York City. But in the poorer neighborhoods and the suburbs and the outskirts, it is no bueno. There are big problems there. I drive through it quite a bit. I might be going out to Chicago actually at the end of the month too.
Knock down crime, but we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country.
See what I mean? Like, no offense to Don, but this speech could have been wrapped up in a third of the time, had all the same major points, but he constantly repeats himself. Constantly.
But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua, and they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States.
So let me just stop it there. I'm not here to tell you that a lot of bad hombres, didn't come into the United States during the mass influx of, illegal immigration that was clearly supported by our government. Okay, clearly. So I mean, again, being in Chicago on flights, especially O'Hare, I took pictures of it, the whole thing. Now, do I believe that everybody I saw from a certain area was a criminal or a drug dealer or from an insane asylum? No, Don. I'm sorry. You can't have it both ways. You also talked about the Venezuelans that live here in the United States, that you're supporting. Well, I would assume some of those people came during the Biden administration when the bad guys came too. Okay? And that's, one of those big problems with this bullshiz left-right politics, right? Is that these tropes are played into.
But no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country.
So if you were watching the beginning, this is that part that I'm talking about. And apparently this is some oil infrastructure business deals that were outside of the United States government, and I really haven't looked into. Okay? I just want to point that out.
Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, so we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night.
So wait, they used these weapons, and they're so fierce that not only did nobody die on the U.S. side, but none of our equipment was damaged. That's another question. Like again, it does look like they had insiders here. Venezuela does have an air force, guys. Just pointing that out. And doesn't seem like they fired much, if anything.
Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal. But we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security.
What commerce that is core to national security. That's what this is really about. We can sit here and prance around about the cartel stuff, and look, what happened to that girl is atrocious. Absolutely. But we don't talk about what happens when a drone bomb goes off and just people are insta-disintegrated. Okay? We just don't. And, quite frankly, just to bring up the Epstein situation, one of the big reasons that they don't want you in on the real info on Epstein, again, is Iran-Contra, arms dealing, the United States in that business, and drug dealing. The United States in that business, along with Israel at the time. Okay? Just all real.
These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free.
Free of what? You just said it's the United States. We run it now. You just talked about the military power on the coast of Venezuela. I mean, this is a might is right scenario, period. I don't know how you could spin it any other way.
America is a safer nation this morning. It's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's fantastic.
We're going to stop right there, and we're going to just bring it to the questions and comments after Rubio. There we go.
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be, as you know.
So just outwardly, when he talks about running it, and he's talking about how the oil companies are going to finance it, and that we are going to work with them. That is the definition of fascism, for those that don't know, the combination of the military and private business, especially when you're talking about a private business that provides energy for the globe. I mean, again, tell me I'm wrong.
Just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead. You know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others. We have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
So money, 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 with a side of money, is the plan right now. So once again, because I opened up with this, I'm asking you, if you're for this, number one, is the fentanyl crisis over? Did we get the big dog? Probably not. Is the drug crisis? Is the drug crisis ever going to end in the United States? Probably not. And with all this talk of oil and infrastructure and us running it, are your energy bills going down? And are you going to be paying like half at the pump after this? Probably not.
Rubio would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
going?
I
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is about that?
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
So again, it doesn't shock me that the executive didn't notify Congress for this one. Guys, I think this is bad news brown. I don't like this. I like it more than invasion and war, but just going in and taking out leaders of other nations and installing other is just, it's not only a bad look, I think it's bad policy. And show me where it benefits you and I, the American citizen. Just don't see it. folks, if you appreciate true independent media, media that's not about left or right, media that's not about talking points, right? Look, again, I gave Trump his due on cleaning up D.C., right? And I largely agree with him on Illinois and Chicago politics. But at the same time, this foreign policy to me is totally out of control. So $5, $10, $15, the links are down below. Big donors, thank you so much. I could not do it without you. The Melissas, the Phils of the world, the people that have donated again and again over the years, even the small donors out there, the Jammas, the Elijahs. There are a lot of you. Thank you so much. And as you guys know, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.